There we go. There we go. Now, just wait for this to flip over. Okay. Oh. Almost. And there we go. Okie dokie. Cool. Gotta pop out the chat. So that I can read it. Switch over to live chat so that I can. Okay, that's good. That's good. Everybody's happy. And there we go. Hope you are having a good time of day, whatever time of day it is where you are. Might be Monday, might be Sunday. I don't think it's going to be Saturday. I think we're done with Saturday here on this planet. At least for this week. Let's see here. Morning from sunny Virginia. More battle mech painting today. Nice. Hamilton, Ontario. Sunny in Newark, Delaware. Not too far away in the grand scheme of things, sure. It's pretty sunny here too. It's nice. I think it's supposed to hit 83 today Fahrenheit. So I've closed up the windows and the air conditioning will do. It's going to get hot this week. It's going to get up towards in the mid 90s at some point in the middle of the week. So just figured it'd be a good idea to nip that in the bud. I was up at Historicon yesterday and I'm unpacking a bunch of Monster Fight Club scenery that I'll be needing shortly. Nice. I've got some Monster Fight Club, those cool chain link fences. I've got one of those boxes primed and I need to go through and like I primed it dark brown for the rust. And then I'm going to go through and kind of paint it silver so that I don't completely cover everything so that you'll see the rust kind of come through, but I just haven't done it yet. But it's it's on my list of terrain things this summer that I'm currently working on. Good morning from Nova. How you doing? Hello from Musselburgh, Scotland. It's like Musselburgh. I'm probably mispronouncing that and I apologize. Good morning, everyone from cloudy Whiskey Lucan, Mexico. All right there. Spent the last few days cleaning paint bottles, reorganizing my workspace. Looking forward to some Kit Bash Trader Guard later. Nice. Good morning, everyone from sunny, soupy weather in Tennessee. Soupy, yeah, we're going to be getting some humid, I think, maybe too. Well, I don't know. BF Bulldog, how you doing? VJ Morph, howdy. Newfoundland, Cleveland, Wad Tomaton, how you doing? Let's see here. Oh my goodness. So far behind. There we go. Kent, England, Markham, building up some Cadian shock troops. Been working on those myself. Let's see. Very pleasant day in Coventry. Well, that's good to hear. England. Boston. Nice. World Eater Berserkers. Gold trim for the trim god. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oshawa, Ontario. How you doing, Roan? Let's see here. Working on Star Force from Cyberforge minis for Space Station Zero. Nice. Sweltering from Clearwater, Florida. I mean, it's usually pretty hot in Florida, right? Isn't that kind of a thing? Like they're in Texas, right? But yeah, no, that's no one likes to swelter. Well, some people probably like to swelter, but I don't like to swelter, so therefore it's bad. Good morning from Saskatchewan, Commissar Uncle Adam. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Good morning from Jonesboro, Illinois. Let's see here. Afternoon from UK South. Rainy Sunday in Tampa, Florida. Yeah, we had a little bit of rain yesterday on and off, and that's good because we haven't had rain in months much. Like, you get like a sprinkle here and there, but it's been real dry. All the grass is kind of brown. Bavaria, Somerset, Portugal, Huntsville, Alabama. Your Imperial Guard would be a good project for Pro Acryl Dark Camo Green Primer, possibly. Well, if I was going in that direction, yes. If I was like doing normal, well, honestly, here's the thing. If I was doing normal, like Cadian style, what I would probably do is I'd actually prime everything like a tan color, because then all you have to paint is the armor and you don't have to paint the cloth. If you go with that dark green, then you have to go through and paint all the cloth. And on almost every guardsman, there's a little bit more cloth than there is armor, which may be part of the problem, to be perfectly frank with you. But, you know, anyway, so yeah, but what I'm doing is I've gone with, I primed them black, and then I'm using a color from the Army Painter from their airbrush line, which this is not how you use an airbrush. Don't do it like that. But yeah, their airbrush line, it's a color called Uniform Gray, which is a pretty cool gray. So I did that, and then the shoulder pads, the helmet, the chest plate, and the knee pads are a color called, I think, Occultist Cloak or Occultist Robe, something like that, which is a speed paint, also from Army Painter. And it's also like a very dark kind of blue. So they've got a definitely cool color to them, and then I've thrown a wash over them later on after I've done a bunch of stuff, and then paint the skin and everything. So and the wash has got a bit of a warmth to it, so that kind of helps to interact. I've been working on them on Twitch. You can kind of see them there. I'll be working on them again tomorrow night here on Twitch, or not here on Twitch. This is YouTube, but I'll be on Twitch tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Central, just in case you're wondering, continuing to work on my guard. And yeah, it's so I'm going with a different color scheme than standard, I guess, is what we'll say. But that is a good color, especially for primer and stuff like that. Working in PowerPoint, which I've never done. Well, I'm trying to think the last time I worked in PowerPoint. It's been a while. I lose track of the days of the week. If it wasn't for this show, I wouldn't know it's Sunday. Well, I'm glad to help then. Rainy afternoon here in Lake District, UK. Rained an hour ago in Townsville. That was weird. Doing some painting, listening to the lovely Yorkshire rain. You guys are getting a bunch of rain. Cheers from Chicago. Still iced coffee season. Yeah, no, definitely. Hoping to be able to paint some blueberries today. Nice. Where am I here? Blueberries. There we go. Working my 3rd Guard Army. Glad you joined the club. Last forecasterkin for my squad on the table right now. I'm doing, so for this 1,000-point army, the basis, like the troop kind of battle line basis, is going to be 3 units of 10 shock troops. There will be a unit of 10 Death Corps of Krieg, and and these guys aren't battle line, but there'll also be a unit of 10 Casterkin. Those guys aren't battle line, but the other 4 units are. They were already in my basement. I may throw in some Tempestus Scion at some point too, because I just recently came across 2 boxes of 5 of those guys, and I was like, what am I doing? Okay, anyway, so although there might be some parts missing. I know one of those was for a project that I was doing stuff, I think, for Kill Team, for when I was doing Kill Team 2018. My Guard Kill Team 2018 army had a mix of the old chunky Cadians and Tempestus Scion folks. So there might be a missing model or 2 in there, but I'll double check. Anyway, and then currently I don't plan on having any regular tanks. Like I don't plan on having any Lehman Russes or Rogel Dorns. Rogel Dorn's $100. I don't know, man. I don't know. I've got currently built, but not yet painted. I have a Chimera, a Hellhound, which is the flamethrowery one, and a Manticore with the missiles. So yeah, those all are built and ready to get painted eventually. But right now I'm just working on the combat patrol, which is again the 2 squads of the shock troopers, the command squad, the armored sentinel walkie thing, and 2 of the field ordnance things. Those guys are all built, their bases are all textured, and they're all primed, so they're in progress. But then eventually I might add another. I mean, I've got a Commissar, I've got a Primaris Psyker, I've got a bunch of different things. I could eventually expand to a 2,000-point army, but here's the trick. I don't want to play a 2,000-point game, really, probably ever. 1,000-point games are kind of what I'm looking at. Like, I like Combat Patrol a lot. I don't want to play a 2,000-point game. I see, and the people that I've been, kind of playing with and stuff like that are looking at also expanding eventually to 1,000-point, but we don't really see ourselves going to 2,000. We may eventually have enough models to do so. We just don't want to play a game that big and long, generally. So there's that. Let's see here. Hello from Chilliwack. That's fun to say. Munich, Germany. Memphis, Tennessee. Love watching your content. Well, thank you, Autumn. I appreciate that. Older I've gotten, the more I love the Guard. Something about the ordinary soldier, the everyman doing their best against all odds is comparison to aging. Maybe, very possibly. For me, I think it is one of the reasons I've always been interested in Imperium armies for the most part, I think, is just because I think it's because I'm like I can identify with humans. I can't identify with Tau very easily. I can't identify with Eldar or orcs, but like humans, whether they're Space Marines or, you know, I mean, even Space Marines, I'm no superhuman soldier for sure. But like the regular Guard is but you may be right on that whole aging thing. That being said, I also still kind of like Necrons, but that's because they're skeletons and skeletons are cool. So yeah, there's that too. Let's see here. Where no, we don't have a clock on that. Okay. Just got in 40K, and the Guard is the army I have chosen, converting them into goblins. Interesting. Thank you, Uncle. Gives me something to listen to while working on my cat hotel. That sounds like fun. Poland, Australia. I have to sneeze. Phew, excuse me. Nope, just one evidently. Family started our Duolingo Japanese lessons yesterday. Determined to use some when we go in March. Nice. Hello from Calgary. Checking in from South Ontario. How you doing? Morning from the Rockies. Soon to be blisteringly hot in New Mexico. That's also, yeah, it's been sweaty overall on the entire planet. Good morning from Albuquerque. So sick of NIDS right now. Yeah, there's a lot of the Tyranids in that box. That's very true. Michigan, Montreal, Santa Rosa. Hello from Germany. Good afternoon from south of France, working on some indie wargames minis, including Majestic 13. Nice. I happen to have Majestic 13 sitting right here. It looks like this, if you haven't seen it already. I was watching a bit of it was the rerun, but or whatever, you know, video on demand, a VOD of 52 miniatures. One of his live streams, his most recent live stream, I think, number 25, something like that, and he talked for a bit about Majestic 13. So that was very nice of him. He's a good dude. Good morning from the EAA Convention Campground. Also, before coming up to Oshkosh, I had just finished a 6-point Anglo-Dane warband using your baking soda CA technique. Well, that's very cool for the bases. Nice. Well, that's very cool. Yeah. The big air show is about to, well, technically it starts today. Technically, it's back when I worked there. I worked for the company that runs the whole shoot and match, the huge giant air venture is what it's called. The wrist badge or wrist, like, you know, they're like bracelets, those kind of ones where they stick them on and snap them on, and then you have to cut them to get them off. The ones for Saturday, well, the ones for the initial day were always Sunday/Monday. All the rest of them were all, you know, one day at a piece, but it was always that kind of Sunday. So basically that starts. If you know what I'm talking about, there's a convention here in town every year. It's been going on for, I don't know, 60 years or something like that. And the Whitman Regional Airport becomes the busiest airport in the world for a week. And our town goes from about 75,000 to about 500,000, roughly, over the course of the week. Yeah, last year, 510,000 people came through this convention, I guess. So yeah, it's a big thing. It's a big air show. There's a lot of noise, a lot of airplanes. And those of us who live here in town have a tendency to try to, if you're on this side of the river, you try not to go to the other side of the river during that week, because everything is going to be, you know, restaurants, everything. It's going to be kind of packed. But yeah, I haven't been out there, honestly, as I stopped working there in 2015. I don't think I've been out there during an air venture since. It's one of those deals where if you work there, when air venture happens, you work for, what was the number? It was always like 21 days straight. Like the week leading up, then the week of, and then that week of the actual convention, you generally worked 16-hour days, and then you worked like the week after, or was it 2 weeks before? I don't remember, but basically you got no days off for 21 days, and there was the actual week of the convention where you were there. You'd come home, you'd sleep for 6 hours or less, and then come back. Yeah, it was a big one. Sunny but showery West Midlands. How you doing? Philippines. How you doing? My scheme is green and tan like the standard one. I also prime the cloth color. Gotcha. Pete the Wargamer does great Ultramar Auxilia. Nice. Painting up some kit-bashed old guardsmen and mercenaries for space weirdos. That's a lot of fun. Really enjoying painting these Infinity models. They seem to take a little bit more focus and effort, but worth it, sure. Oops, everything moved again. Son of a... let's see here. Hello from Peru. Currently vacationing south of the border in sunny Seattle at 7 a.m. Send coffee. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of coffee in Seattle, so you should be good. Currently painting SOTs tonight. SOTs. I don't know what that is. Sorry. Tempted. Maybe you want to start a full army. I mainly play kill team. Glad to catch the stream. The AM is my second army. I love the orders army rule. Yep. Terrence, how you doing? Andrew, hey from Columbus, how you doing? Good morning from the Florida Panhandle. How do you set your camera up to record your painting without it in your way? I hang it from the ceiling. Yeah, I have it because it's the basement, and our basement is not finished. People ask all the time, you're like, "You gonna finish your basement?" I'm like, no. If I was to finish the basement, then I'd have to build like a grid so I could attach things to the ceiling to hang them down to film. And as it is right now, if it's unfinished, then I have all kinds of things to attach to, the joists and all that kind of stuff. The house is pretty old. It's 100 years old. Anyway, but yeah, so I have an arm that's maybe about 3 feet long that clamps onto a thing up on the ceiling, and then the camera points basically straight down, and that's how I do it. So yeah. Sometimes I do have to keep my head out of the way, though, that's for sure. Been having a lot of fun priming minis with the new airbrush. I got the one you recommended. The biggest problem is not using my thumb on the trigger like a joystick. I've seen people who do that, though, who spray with their thumb instead of their finger like this. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it if it works for you. How much terrain do you need for Combat Patrol? I've got the 2018 Kill Team Wolves versus Tau box. So Combat Patrol is played on a 44 by 30, so it's like 2 Kill Team maps like stuck together side by side, because Kill Team is 22 by 30, so 44 by 30 is the size of Combat Patrol. So you might need a little bit more terrain than that, but not a ton more. Let's see here. Good morning from Tahoe. Hoping to get some demons and get some knights when I'm home. Nice. Haven't painted in months. I need to get motivated. I always tell people to do one thing. Like that's, get your stuff together, and get your, maybe the getting stuff together is the one thing, just be like, I'm going to get all the stuff together. I'm going to put some water in a cup. I'm going to get my brushes. I'm going to get all my paints. I'm going to get it all set up. And then maybe when I feel like painting, then I can start doing it, but I won't have to do that part. I've at least done that one thing. But maybe once you get done setting up all your stuff, you'd be like, all right, cool. I'm going to paint this guy's boots. That's all I'm going to do. Just one thing, just the boots. And then you do the boots and then you see how you feel. Maybe you stop, excuse me, maybe you stop now, or maybe you go, well, I'm here, I got all the stuff. I'm going to work on the pants, and then, it may snowball from there, hopefully, but that's kind of the best way to start, I think. Does anyone have any recommendations for gold rattle can? I know a lot of people like the Retributor Gold from GW, but it's like, what does it cost? $90 a can? Something like that. I don't know. It's not that high, but it's really expensive. Like, I think it's $30 a can, at least, something like that. It's, I don't know. Has anyone ever used the Instar paints and mediums? I'm curious about getting some. The only stuff I've used from them is their Varnish Plus. They're like Ultramatte Varnish, and I like it so much. It is really, really, really good. It is my now go-to airbrush varnish, is the Varnish Plus Ultra Matte, or just maybe matte. I forget exactly. But yeah, it's really good. I must have done something with it. I had a white plastic like spoon, you know, like just a disposable like picnic spoon, and they're obviously very shiny and glossy, especially if you've not used it or anything like that. And I put like a piece of tape over half of it, and then I airbrushed the other half with the stuff, and it's just like, wow, it's a really, really good mat. It's really good. And it was sitting here on the dining room table, but I wonder if my wife recycled it because she just thought it was a spoon. That's fine. Rogel Dorn is a bit pricey in points too. Manticore looks good. The Manticore got a bump. It got bumped up because it was, I want to say it was 105 initially. And then when they did their first tweak 2-3 weeks ago, Manticore was one of the things that got bumped up. It got bumped up to like 125, which is, again, still not bad. And from what I understand, and this is without me playing any actual like 1,000-point games yet, people were losing their minds over indirect fire because they're like, it's way too powerful, and towering, which is something that knights, Imperial Knights get. I don't exactly know what it does. But so things that had towering and indirect fire basically got a bump. And I think some Eldar stuff got bumped up in points too, which is probably for the best. But yeah. But the Manticore is just kind of cool, and I like a little bit of artillery, and I don't know. I really like the Chimera chassis. I like a lot of that stuff. Like I've wanted a Leman Russ on and off for a while. I've always just thought they were kind of interesting. Definitely iconic because they don't, like, the Rogel Dorn looks like kind of a World War II tank, a little bit. The Leman Russ doesn't look like a real tank. It's wackadoo looking, just the strangest proportions and stuff like that. And I'm like, that's kind of cool. But I don't know that I'm going to be able to. I don't know that I want one of those in a 1,000-point list. But those other things, like the Hellhound, is very cool. I like the Hellhound. I'm looking forward to painting that. Space Wolves Combat Patrol is only lacking the tactical war suit. That guy is a beast to find right now. Plus, it's a wee bit expensive. Yeah, that's the thing that's happening, is that a lot of the parts from the combat patrols, if you're like, I have all the parts except this, like the Doomstalker right now is super crazy hard to find from the Necrons. Now, luckily, I had picked one up for some reason like a year or two ago. I was gonna turn it into one of my Forsaken robot projects, and I'm glad I didn't get to it, because now I can just put it into a Necron kill or a combat patrol, because I have the 3 Scorpec destroyers already painted. They're done. I have technically 10 warriors finished, but in the combat patrol, 5 of them are supposed to use the Gauss Flare, and 5 of them are supposed to use the other gun. So I'll probably build 5 more with the other gun and then paint them. They paint up super crazy quick. And then the boss guy with that weird tachyon arrow, you can only shoot it once per game. He's built and textured, just not painted. I do need to put together some scarabs, because I've never bothered with scarabs before. So I need like 3 bases of those. That'll take 15 minutes. Well, probably a little bit longer than that, but yeah. Good morning from Andrews, Texas. Patiently waiting for Warhammer Old World. Well, that's good. JP Got Rockets, how you doing? Let's see here. Cool part of having 2,000 points is that you can change out models for your 1,000-point games. Yeah, exactly. Like I said, I mean, eventually, maybe way down the road, I might even get to 2,000 points, but I'm definitely going to hit probably 1,200 or 1,300. I'm just always going to be able to be like, oh, I'm going to take this guy and swap him out, or I'm going to take this, and I want to go a little bit more on vehicles or a little bit more on troops or whatever, and just kind of mess around and have some different options. Yeah. Let's see here. Going to be collecting historicals next. It's a chapter of your life. I already did that. I played Flames of War back literally 10 years ago. When I hit 42 years old, I started playing Flames of War for a bit with some friends that were also into it, and then we all sort of fell out of it. And so, yeah. Human Soldiers as the gateway historical starter, Grognard. I mean, I guess there's a possibility of that for sure. I'm torn on Tyranids. Should I do them colorful or make them look like xenomorphs? Xenomorphs would be quicker, for sure. because you could literally just prime them black, dry brush them kind of like a cool gray, and then just gloss them. Maybe pick out some details here and there for sure, but yeah, I could see something like that. I always wanted to collect the simple human guard because I just love the tanks with actual tracks. They look awesome, especially in contrast to the whole sci-fi setting. Yeah. You know, and I do enjoy even just building those chimeras and stuff like that. Like that chassis is a quick and fun chassis to build. So I don't know. I've built a bunch of rhinos and like predators and things like that over the years based off the rhino chassis for Space Marines back in the day, Chaos Space Marines, all that kind of stuff. It's the same vehicle. You just put more spikes on it. But there's something, I don't know, I like the Chimera better. I'm not sure. And I've got a friend who loves the Guard but hates the Chimera. Just will not have one in his army. And I'm like, all right, well, that's your choice. Well, your dudes are going to be walking. I mean, technically you get a Valkyrie and then you could fly them places, but... Good morning from Too Hot SoCal. Sunday. Let's see here. A popular airplane YouTuber is coming to that. Evie Treisenberg? Popular airplane YouTuber? Oh, like, to the, yeah, right, yeah, to the, it's the biggest in, well, I think it's the biggest in the world. It's either that or Paris. The Paris Air Show is also massive, but I think this is bigger. Not necessarily the air show part, but the amount of people and all that stuff. Like the campgrounds are crazy. It's something like the people who are camping there, it's like 50 or 60,000 people camping there, maybe more. It's crazy. It's huge. But yeah, like I said, it becomes the busiest airport in the world for a week. The main runway is a little bit longer than a mile. So it's pretty long for a regional airport, but they kept expanding, making it longer and longer because they wanted bigger and bigger jets to be able to come to the show. SR-71 needs a real long runway. B-2 bomber needs a real long runway. 747s and C5, or C5 Galaxy and stuff like that. They need really long runways. But during the normal part of the week, when they're not landing giant airplanes like that, there are these humongous, like, neon-colored dots on the runway. There's a blue one and a green one and a yellow one and maybe a pink one. And when the planes are flying in, like normal Cessnas and Bonanzas and all that jazz, you don't fly in and land the long way on the runway. What you do is they tell you to go towards, like, like, hey, Cessna 162, whatever, you're going to land on blue dot. And they come perpendicular to the runway and they fly 4 at a time, and then they all do 90-degree turns and then land on their dots, and that's how they land planes 12 hours a day for the entirety. So it's not like one plane landing on the runway, and there are multiple runways. It's got one of those things where there's like the long one and then a couple of shorter ones, but on the long runway they're landing 4 planes at a time because they come at they come at it from the the 90-degree angle, and they all turn at the same time and land on these dots, and it's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. Good morning from, good morning from Northern, shoot, now I missed it. Where was it? Northern MD, Maryland, I think, right? Have you heard of the new rank and flank game Hobgoblin? And so, what do you think? It's by Mike Hutchinson, who did Car Wars. He knows his stuff, obviously. The artwork is awesome. The artwork's done by a comic book illustrator named Crom. The problem is that I'm not into rank and flank games. So I like the concept. I love the design, and the artwork's awesome. And when I say design, I mean the visual designs. I've seen like the cover of the book and some stuff like that. But I'm just not into rank and flank, so it's not for me, unfortunately. But I'm glad that it seems to be doing well, so that's very cool. Got a few plastic model kits on the go too. I love summer and all the options for things to do. Sure. Sounds like too many people. It's a lot of people, but it's not like Gen Con where they're all in one giant building. They're like, it's a huge giant. You're outside for most of it. I mean, there are big expo hangars and all kinds of tents and things like that, obviously. We have a hobby town and a Warhammer store. There is a local chain called CM Games with several locations, a huge place called Sci-Fi City, and a few smaller shops. Well, that's cool. This video is going to push me off the fence, and I'm going to end up buying an Imperial Guard army after all, but I'm going to get some rules for myself, not until I finish up painting Leviathan. I mean, I would honestly tell you to go look at the Combat Patrol first. It's a nice starter box to kind of go from, you know. My friend is going to be there with his dad and his kids. It's an amazing place. What are your thoughts on the new Guard Commander model? Minka-lesque. The mouth and face seems off to me. I like... Oh, hang on. Yeah, there we go. Sometimes it's just the way they paint that stuff, though, too. I don't know. I like this model. I am definitely interested. So yeah, I don't know. I think I would probably stick with the sword and the pistol, I think. But yeah, it's interesting that it's a pre-order kind of thing. Like, well, I mean, they're always pre-orders, but it's like they've got this thing about like, oh, you got to do it by this date, or if you don't, then it won't. And it's just, I don't know. Yeah, it's available to order until Monday, the 7th of August. That's a strange, because normally they have the pre-order up and then, so yeah, I don't know. It seems like it's, I don't want to say it's limited edition, but maybe they're heading in that direction with it. It's kind of strange. Ah, yes, and then the Necromunda rulebook. I have that too. Is right. They sent this. It is kind of a moose. It's more readable, which is good. I think they've at least changed that, which is very nice. There's a lot of game here, like a lot of game, and it's fun to page through. But if you don't play Necromunda, I feel like this is not a good place to start. I don't know if there is a good place to start with Necromunda. Like, the game is so incredibly dense. I wish that they had like a starter for Necromunda that was like, here's the pared down rules, and like, so you don't have to, because yeah, there's a ton to it. I don't know if I'm going to make a video about it or not, because honestly, I love the models and I buy a lot of the models, but I just don't play because it is just so much. And also, up until just now, or you know, well, soon, because this will come out soon, it's been impossible to get all of the rules together. And this is not all of the rules. This is like all of the required rules, but there's still a zillion books that they put out that have, yeah, I don't know. I wish Necromunda, and I know people get angry when you say, oh, I wish things were a little bit more streamlined, but well, if they're not streamlined, I'm not going to play. So, you know, make it super crunchy so the 18 people who play it can have a good time, and then see how that works out. But yeah, no, so I'm definitely, I'm interested in picking this model up. I also have a Sergeant Ripper Jackson. She's like more of a, like Catachan kind of jungle, you know, a figure. And she was like, I think an anniversary like store figure. I had to drive up to nearly Green Bay to get her from the closest actual GW store. Couldn't get her anyplace else. But there's no rules for her in the actual, like in the index. There's no rules. So I'm kind of like, well, that's kind of weird. I think I might, how am I trying to say this? I think what I might do is turn her into a Vindicare Assassin, because I really hate the Vindicare Assassin like model. All of those assassin models are terrible in my opinion. They're probably technically very well done or whatever, but there's something about the aesthetics of every single one of those assassin models, the 4 of them or whatever. I'm just like, no, it's terrible. So I think I might turn her into a Vindicare Assassin. I don't know. We'll see. Starting my ODST Elysian Imperial Guard Drop Troopers. Nice. Any interest? Let's see. I just read that. Dredge Marines from Mezgeik. That's a hard word to say. Any ideas on how to paint a Maccabean Janissaries army? I don't even know what that is. So unfortunately, no. More light for painting. Nice. I had leased the home to get more Retributor army spray. It's very expensive, yes. My motivation lately has been to finish my 1,000-point unfinished small things, or maybe it's just 1,000 unfinished small things. Not necessarily 1,000 points of unfinished small things. That's fine. So far this year, I finished a 12-year-old Tau, 3-year-old Marines, and my sisters. Well, that's pretty good. Morning from Uperland on the UP up north there. Nice. How you doing? I enjoyed the Inquisitor Ally Kit Bash video. Would love to see more. Got a copy of the Eisenhorn Omnibus book yesterday as a nearly new used copy. Even got to use CM Trade in credit to get it. Nice. Eisenhorn's a great book, or that series. It's a great series. I'm a big fan. Eisenhorn and Ravnor are like literally the only two pieces of GW lore that I even care a little bit about for the most part, it seems. And I know that makes me a bad person, but I'm okay with it. I dug out my copy of Age of Sigmar Skirmish from 2018 and have created a couple of warbands, so that's pretty cool. Retributor Armor's $42 a can in Canada. Good lord. Hello from Russia. Longtime enjoyer of tabletop minions. Good job. Great adult content. Been playing Warhammer Fantasy Battles in my youth. Thinking to close my gestalt and in my 40s start to finally do 40k. Well, see, if you're in your 40s and you do 40k, there you go. The Doomstalker is the only part of my Necron Combat Patrol missing. All the rest I got from the 9th edition starter sets. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, everything else that you need is in the Indominus box, except the Doomstalker. That's why the Doomstalker is real hard to find right now, unfortunately. Got the Doomstalker because I needed that War of the Rings thing to paint, or War of the Worlds thing. That makes more sense, yeah. Glad I got it when I did, but at that time I knew these things would disappear. Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming that they're going to release a box, probably in the fall, that will be the new Necron Combat Patrol box. They'll have all that stuff in it. But right now, if you want to be ahead of the game, like Sam just recently did, he was able to find a Doomstalker. And then he had the stuff from Indominus, and then he painted it all up. Made a great video about it. You should check out Sam's channel and see his cool Necron Combat Patrol, which he used last week Sunday to stomp on me with, which was fun. We had a good time. I think I built my Indominus Warriors half and half, so nice how that worked out. Yeah, exactly. I did not, unfortunately. I gave them all Gauss Flares, and I'm like, well... The old Rhino kits are a great basis to create a Kit Bash tank that looks way cooler. Sure. Putting decals on my Salamanders. Nice. You can hear Diesel walking by. Which do you prefer? Pre-assembled minis or multi-part minis? As I get older, I'm starting to prefer single minis. Well, I'm not a big fan of pre-assembled. I mean, if it's like 3D printed, that's a different story. But like, so like Age of, what is it? No, Song of Ice and Fire. Like, that's all pre-assembled minis. And a lot of the Modifius, Fallout. Those are mostly all, and then probably I bet that a lot of the Elder Rings, Elder Scrolls, whatever, Elder Scrolls stuff, that probably is also done mostly pre-built. And like God Tier and things like that. Those are all, is that what it's called? God Tier? Yeah. Anyway, so generally, I mean, and most things for most board games are that way. I kind of prefer them when they're something I have to build, mainly because I know I'm going to get a more dynamic pose, generally. I'm also got stung real hard by buying into the Other Place, I think it's called, which is the slightly army scale version of Malifaux. And the benefit to that game when I picked it up pre-pandemic was that it was, oh, it's all pre-built, so you're cool. And then I opened up the boxes and they're pre-built, but poorly, like pretty poorly. And so that really bummed me out. Now, that being said, the concept of like push fit versus multi-pose or whatever, that doesn't bother me. I'm fine with push fit stuff. I got no problem with that. I know some people really hate that stuff, but I don't have a problem with it at all. Too bad I went with Deathcore. Like I said, I'm going to have a unit of Deathcore in my planned army. I may eventually try to get a second unit in there, just because, I don't know, they're kind of cool models. They need to fix that thing where they're like on the cards right now. I'm kind of amazed they didn't fix this already, but they talk about how like you can get like, if you have a medic bag, then you use this special ability to bring back guardsmen or Death Corps of Krieg guys, but then the medic bag is not available as a piece of war gear on the back of the card. So that's kind of weird. Like, how did you, Like they're like, oh, if you have this thing, then you can do this thing. And then you're like, cool, how do I get that thing? They're like, we don't have an option for that, which is strange. So yeah, I'm not sure. Currently painting up the all-in Kickstarter Masters of the Universe Clash for Eternia miniatures game. The models are really nice. So that's cool. Chimeras have no spring suspension. Looking at the detail in the model, any infantry riding in one of those will not be able to fight after riding in one of those. I'm also torn on NIDs. I do paint them like the interior of a Space Hulk and say it's natural camouflage, or in the eye strain color palette because you can't aim at them if it physically hurts to look at. It makes sense. Let's see here. I wouldn't say that the Lehman Russ doesn't look like a real tank. It looks like a World War I tank with a World War II style turret. Not exactly like an existing tank, but basically, well, I mean, like, the thing is that the tank that it's sort of really, it's as if someone took what they call it, the Land Raider or the Land Ship Mark V or whatever. It's the one that, I'm pretty sure it's the same one from Last Crusade. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, where they're on the top of it and it's going and rolling down that thing, and they're fighting on top of it. That long World War I tank, and I think that's what that one is. If you took that and squished it this way and then put a big round turret on top of it, that's kind of what a Lehman Russ looks like. But it's not exactly, yeah, I don't know. Oh, the C5. I've flown halfway around the world on that beast. Never liked sitting backwards towards the tail up in the top of that thing. It does not seem like it's a particular air travel. I find to not be particularly comfortable anyway. Well, I was on a private plane one time, like a private, like it wasn't a jet, it was a turboprop, but it was like I flew, like I've been in like smaller airplanes, like normal stuff like that. I actually flew in a trainer and I got to steer for a while and stuff like that. It was a PT-26. I think it's the only one flying in the world, and the Experimental Aircraft Association owns one, and I got to fly in that when I worked there. I also got to fly in a B-29, or no, not a B-29, B-17. Got to fly in a B-17. Did not get to steer that, sadly, but I did get to go up in the nose. That was fun. I did not get to go in the tail. That they don't let you go back there. It's way too. I'm too big anyway, and you need to be like the person who sits in the tail gunner or lays on their gut in this tail gunner in the B-17 has got to be real small. Anyway, but I did for a job once fly across the state of Wisconsin in a private turboprop, and that was comfortable. And it was also, you just drive your car up, park, grab your stuff, walk into the plane, and then fly away. You don't have to go through TSA and all that shenanigans. But in general, regular old airplane travel is very frequently not comfortable, whether it's commercial or military, from what I understand. I've never flown military, but I've been told by people that, yeah, it's not great. Lansing, Michigan, spending my day cleaning my house to sell and buy a new one. Well, there you go. Greetings from LA. First time catching you live, weathering out on the strike. No work equals more hobby time. True. That's... let's see here. Greetings from Temple Patrick, Northern Ireland. How you doing? Hello from French Quebec. Or is it Quebec? Quebec or Quebec? I think it's Quebec. Cooking pancakes for the next hour. Nice. Good morning from How Can It Already Be This Hot, Texas. Yes. Jim Crimmins, how you doing? Last night I primed and zenithalled 6 aliens for Majestic 13. Nice. Airbrush makes this possible so quickly. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Got to start painting one of them in the same session. Rattlecan is gassing off in 24 hours. I still generally, if I'm going to prime and zenithal something, even with my airbrush, I generally let it sit overnight. Not to outgas, but just to sort of like kind of firm up the primer. But I guess it depends on how you paint. Like if you get real wet with lots of washes early on, I have had issues sometimes where it will then peel off a little bit of primer. Or if you get crazy with the dry brushing, if you don't give it enough time to cure, I've seen that too. But I've also had conversations with with Vince, where he's just like, no, you prime it and then you just start painting it. It's fine. But he's painting in a very different way than sometimes I do. So I could see that too. Good morning, Uncle Adam. Thank you for the stream. Have you tried World of Tanks by Gale Force 9? I haven't. I'm aware of it. I was into Tanks the Modern Age for a hot second. Like there's the World War, like they still make just tanks. Although maybe they don't. Maybe they finally discontinued that completely and they're just completely all in on this World of Tanks thing. But for a while there was just tanks, I think with an exclamation point, and that was World War II. And then there was Tanks the Modern Age, which was a lot of models from like, what's that? Team Yankee. So yeah, more like 80s and 90s kind of tanks, more modern, hence the term modern age. And I was more interested in that because it also had helicopters and cool stuff like that. And I remember buying into a bunch of it and starting to paint some of it and doing all that. And then they discontinued it. I'm like, cool, awesome. But I have not played the World of Tanks one. I played the video game a little bit, but not for quite some time. I used to play it on the PlayStation. I use Necromunda minis for Space Station Zero. Yep, perfect for that. Absolutely. Lehman Rust is like the made-up tank from Indiana Jones in The Last Crusade, which I checked is available from Empress Miniatures. I thought that was based much more closely, though, off of an actual World War I tank. Landship Mark V or something like that. I may be making that up. Bought some of the Necromunda stuff to use in my planned guard army. Nice. What instrument is that in the case behind you? That is my wife's cello. And his name is Necromunda. Or, sorry, Nick. Nick Ramunda, not Necromunda. Nick Ramunda. Can't wait for the next edition of World of Tanks starter box. Contains a mouse and a UST-29. Nice. Necromunda has some super cool models and kits, but the rules are daunting, so I'll likely never play like when things like Majestic 13 and Forbidden Psalm exist. Yeah, no, I that's the issue for me. Like, I love the concept of the world. I find that the Necromunda stuff in 40K is far more human. I should look around for some maybe Necromunda books, like Black Library stuff and whatever, maybe. The regular, like, normal Space Marine type books and stuff like that. I recently listened to 2 of the Adeptus Mechanicus books. I think the first one was called Scutari, and the second one might have been just called Adeptus Mechanicus. There's just way too much bolter porn in there, where it's just pages and pages of this guy shot this guy, and then this Prometheum thing exploded, and then this the guy, oh, we got shot in the face, and just like it's not interesting to me personally. The reason I like Eisenhorn and Ravnor is there's a lot more interpersonal, stuff going on amongst these people and all that. And it's a little bit, I don't want to say it's like a mystery, but it's a little bit more like I don't want to say it's a crime drama. And I know they started making these weird 40K crime drama books or something like that. I'm like, that I don't know if I want, but I guess I should try to read one. Assassins, do those work as allies for the Imperial Guard? Yeah, basically agents of the Imperium you can take as in a 1,000-point list, you can take 1 for any basically Imperium army. So if you're running Space Marines, you could have an assassin. And if you were running Space Marines, you could have a Inquisitor, and same with the Guard. But again, in a 1,000-point list, you can only have 1. Wanting to start a small guard army. I've really gotten big into Necromunda, so mine will be the 8th Company Spiders. Just realized I can use Necromunda models for some units as proxies. Nice. You'll have to start reading Gaunt's Ghosts now that you're a guard player. I've tried. Yeah, I don't know. I've tried and it's not worked out, which is weird because aren't most of the Gaunt's Ghost books written by Dan Abnett, I believe? And Dan Abnett wrote the Ravnor stuff and the Eisenhorn stuff. So I like his work, but something about the Guard, the Gaunt's Ghost books, there's just like too many dudes to keep track of. I don't know. I should probably give it a try again. I think I have at least the first 2 on audiobook. I should probably give it a try. What's your opinion on Battletech? I don't think it's for me. I'm personally more interested in Steel Rift by Ash Barker and published by Death Ray Designs. But I know people are digging it and they're having a good time with it. It is too crunchy for me. And I've had a lot of people say, "Oh, we'll just play Alpha Strike," and I would accept that. Like, the book for Alpha Strike is it's not as thick as this Necromunda book, but it's awful close. Like, and I'm like, this is the simpler game? Are you guys kidding me? It's just, I don't know. Anyway. Again, there's also bazillions and bazillions of like lore and all kinds of stuff like that to the game, and I'm more interested in Steel Rift personally. But that being said, sometimes I enjoy playing the video game BattleTech, like the BattleTech PC game from Harebrained Schemes is kind of fun. I enjoy it. I did recently pick up on sale for the PlayStation MechWarrior Mercenaries 5, and I'm not enjoying that. It's first of all, there's a weird graphical thing going on. It's like they've added some sort of like weird grain filter over the actual gameplay. Like, I thought there was something wrong with my PlayStation because I'm like, why does this look like trash? This looks really terrible. And like everything was fuzzy and kind of almost out of focus. But then like the words on the screen and like the little graphics that, you know, all the overlay kind of graphics and stuff like that were all razor sharp. And then when you would go into like, you'd be waiting for the game to load and they would show this like cool slow motion of a mech doing a thing or whatever, perfectly, gorgeously sharp. And then the game would start and you'd be like, oh, geez, it's just, I don't know what they're doing there, but it looks like trash. And someone was like, well, maybe it's like a setting, and I've been looking and I can't see a way to turn it off. So I don't know. The reason I think I like the BattleTech PC game better is because it's also turn-based. So it's more like you're playing a game. You're not in a mech. You're looking kind of down on them. You can rotate to everything. It's not just like straight top down. But the MechWarrior games, I used to really dig the concept, and I just got to the point where I'm like tired of just like torso twist and walk in a circle. It just doesn't do it for me. So so there you go. There's my opinions, such as they are. Have you tried reading any Caiaphas Cain novels? I've heard about them, and I want to check them out as well, because I've heard that they're kind of funny. B-25 Mitchell from the Canadian Warplane Heritage Museum on Mount Hope over Hamilton Airport. The aviation company here in town, they've got the B-17 and they've got a B-25 now. Like, the B-25 is relatively, well, I was going to say it was new. It's obviously not new, but they've been taking the B-17 on tour all around the country and, you know, selling airplane rides and stuff like that for years. But the B-25 is now on tour as well, and that's relatively new. Maybe just before the pandemic they started doing that. But it was cool because basically where like my cubicle was, if I got up, walked around the cubicles, went to a door, opened it, I walked into a hangar where there was a B-25 right there. There was a de Havilland Mosquito right there. There was just like, that was the more World War II kind of part of the museum. That was a newer part called the Eagle Hangar. And there was the Corsair, whatever that one is. The one with the wings that fold up. Baba Black Sheep, that kind of thing. There was one of those in there. There was a bunch of stuff. There was the original prototype of the P-51. P-51. There was a name. It was a weird name. FP-51? XP-51? Something like that. It was one of the original prototype experimental ones before they started putting them into production. But yeah, it was very cool. I was in a conversation. Well, no, I came across a post on Reddit one time where people were talking about this plane. So if you've heard the term Bugatti, they're generally known for super crazy, very expensive supercars, really super fast Bugatti Veyron, stuff like that. But in the 30s, Bugatti the man was an airplane designer, is where he started. And he designed this airplane, which now I can't think of the name of, but it's a Bugatti something or other. And as World War II started, he was concerned that the Germans were going to get it and then use the technology, so he hid it like in a barn. And so it basically hid from the Germans, like in Germany, I think, for the majority of World War II. And then things happened and this and that and blah, blah, blah. and people were talking about it in this particular thread on Reddit that I came across, and I was like, "Oh yeah, no, that's a very interesting plane. It's very cool." And I'm like, it's just about 100 yards from me, and they're like, "What do you mean?" And I went out and I just took pictures of it because we have the plane. Well, I don't work there anymore, but they have the plane at the museum. The museum here in town that has the original Bugatti, whatever that plane was called. I forget what it was called, but it's blue. It's got a V tail. It's crazy. It looks like crazy sci-fi, but it's from the 30s. And yeah, it was very interesting. People were like, "Wait, so that's a mock-up?" I'm like, "No, this is the original. This is," and I was like taking close-up pictures and stuff like that. It was kind of cool. Weird flex, but okay. Just realized I got the Tabletop Minions live full house this week. Monday Twitch, Friday Twitch, Saturday irregulars, and now every other Sunday. I know, and then tomorrow is Monday Twitch again. It's crazy. Hello from Amsterdam. How you doing? There's no real life analog for that tank. It's the closest I can think of. I thought that there was a. Hang on, let me take a look. World War I tank land ship. This thing. You guys can't see that. Sorry. There we go. This is the land ship, the World War I tank land ship, or whatever. That's what I typed in. But yeah, this is what they had basically in Last Crusade, and you could also drive one of these in Battlefield 1, the video game. But yeah, like they weren't particularly useful, but people were like, "Ooh, that's kind." I mean, I think they did see some action. Yeah, Mark V. That's what it was called, the Mark V. I knew it was something like that. But yeah, that's what I was referencing. And again, like I said, this is the type of thing that they kind of had. And if you take this and then just squish it like this from front to back, squeeze it, and then put a turret on the top of it, that's basically what a Lehman Russ looks like. All right, now I gotta reset up my windows here. There we go. I use one-page rules for Necromunda gang fights. Yeah, there is a gang fights expansion for that for one-page rules, and I really need to take a look at that because I think that might be a lot of fun. I was a kid who went to this resort in the Philippines that had a whole bunch of old American tanks, and a lot of them were cutely small. Well, I mean, honestly, if you go back and look, I just saw a thing recently about how like your average like Ford F-350 is bigger than a Sherman tank, because the Shermans were actually quite small. Now, if you look at our main battle tanks now, like the M1 Abrams and stuff like that, they are massive, you know, in comparison. But if you take the average truck that sits next to you idling, you know, at the stoplight these days, big giant honking pickup truck, that thing is definitely bigger than the M5 Stewarts, but even bigger than the M4A1 or M4A3 or whatever Shermans. I think they did phase out tanks to enable World of Tanks. That makes sense, yeah. Let's see. Eisenhorn is like a spy mystery novel. Yeah, that's true. Yep. Steel Rift is the jam. Good game, and the expansion adds infantry. See, I'm not super interested in the infantry part of it, but yeah, I do like the game. How much of that book is art and lore, though? I mean, probably some. Ugh. Although it's all, well, yeah. I mean, you know, you can't see this, but yeah, there's a lot in here. Obviously, that is, I don't know. There still seems to be a lot of rules in here, though, too. And also, from what I've been told, a lot of the rules seem to be spread around in all kinds of strange places. So it's even still hard to find things a little bit, which is a bit of a bummer. Please find some time to paint some orcs. It'll be good for your soul, I promise. Maybe a little squad for Space Station Zero. I mean, I've painted orcs in the past for Age of Sigmar stuff. I've painted orcs for Warhammer Underworld. I've painted goblins for Warhammer Underworld, Rippus Snarlfangs and the other ones. I did recently paint a big giant orc, huge dude. Like he was 28 millimeter, but he was like huge. And that was a 3D print from Archvillain Games, and that turned out really cool. I like that model a lot. I actually was just showing it to people on Twitch on Friday. So yeah. Steel Rift is much preferable for mech combat for me, more streamlined in my opinion. Yeah, I get that. Recently fallen in love with the PC game Horizon Zero Dawn. Is there a tabletop game for it? I swear there is. I think, well, not a miniatures game, but I think there's maybe a board game. Might be a board game. Loving the new Catalyst books for BattleTech. They have innovated and discovered color. I mean, color's fine, I guess. I don't know. The reason we don't, and we've had people ask us, they're like, why don't you put color in your books that you produce? And we're like, because then the books cost twice as much. So it just, yeah. And then it also takes it. Yeah, it's not fun. Looking forward to the Beckwin books from Abnett, more of the same group from Eisenhorn Ravenor. Sure, yeah. Wanted to say thanks to the consistently great content tutorials. Well, thank you, Scott. I appreciate that. Kaifas Kane is like the Blackadder TV series, but in space. That's not bad. XP51? I think that's the one, yeah. F4U. Yeah, I think that's right. But isn't there a F4 Phantom? Did they use the number twice? I kind of figured they wouldn't, but yeah. Have you tried Bolt Gun PC game? No, I've watched it a little bit on Twitch. It's a little too speedy for me. My main issue with it, to be perfectly honest, is that Space Marine hauls ass. Like he is really like just floating along, moving real fast. And I was like, oh wow, that's kind of weird. Like the game, the aesthetic of it and a lot of stuff, I'm like, yeah, that's cool. But the fact that he moves so quickly and it's so quick and flowy, yeah. The Bugatti 100p? I don't know. Like I said, it's like a blue kind of bullet-shaped thing with wings that I think are swept forward. And there are two props on the nose, and they spin in opposite directions. Bugatti airplane. This is the one. Nope, that's not the right button. That's the right button. Yeah, that's the plane. That is it sitting at let's see here. Did it move to the Air and Space Museum, or is this the copy? Because I know it was, for the longest time, it was in, like here, that's a picture of it, the Model 100. Yeah, that's the picture of it at the AirVenture Museum out by the highway. Like that's the Eric Lindbergh, New York to Paris exhibit that I would walk by all the time. But yeah, this is the plane at Oshkosh. And it's got a crazy, like, weird tail like this. And yeah, the Model 100P. Yep. I don't know if it's still currently in Oshkosh right now. But then I remember while I worked there, people came by and they laser scanned the entire thing and decided to build their own. And then they were going to fly it. And then it crashed. And I think a guy died. So that's not great. But yeah, that plane, that's last I knew, it was out at in Oshkosh. And up here, back here is the tail of the Spirit of St. Louis, but that's a replica. That's a replica of the Spirit of St. Louis. Because the real Spirit of St. Louis, I think, is in Washington, D.C., but this is not a replica of the 1938 Model 100 Racer. So there you go. You guys are coming here for all your aviation information, I guess. Let's see here. Just finished building all the models in the Leviathan box. Now I'm looking at the intimidating amount of plastic to paint. The Space Marines, now I've only painted the Combat Patrol from that box, which is the Terminator Captain, the Terminator Librarian, 5 of the Infernus Flamethrower dudes, and 5 of the Terminators. Like those 12 models make up the entirety of the Combat Patrol for Space Marines. So I haven't painted any of the rest of the stuff from that box or even built it. There's a part of me that kind of wants to do that Dreadnought, but more for like maybe eventually putting into some, maybe one of my Space Marine army down the road. But I already have a built Redemptor. It's even magnetized, so I can swap between the Gatling gun and kind of thing versus the plasma cannon, let's say. So I don't know that I would do that necessarily, because again, my plan is to make a 1,000-point list or a 1,000-point army for Guard, but then eventually I might even hit a second 1,000-point army, and it'll be for Space Marines, either Blood Angels or my own chapter, or maybe even eventually both, which would be then 3. So I'm dubious, but I don't know. I mean, I paint a lot on Twitch, and I paint other times too. I haven't painted at all yesterday because I was busy doing all kinds of other stuff. My wife has been gone. She left Saturday morning on a ladies' trip. She'll be back this afternoon, I believe, or maybe this evening. They went down to the state capital, and we're doing stuff and hanging out and looking at stuff and shopping and whatever. So yeah, I've been here left to my own devices, much to the chagrin of, mainly Diesel. The rest of the cats are okay with it. It seems like that. Anyway, so yeah, it's, but I didn't do any painting yesterday, but maybe we'll do some this afternoon. Let's see here. The tank in Indy was not a made-up tank. That's what I thought. GW based the aesthetics on that, but really isn't one. Yep. I work for an airfoil company that makes parts for all the modern airplanes and some in service tanks. Interesting. Let's see here. Toyota Tundra is the same size as the Sherman M4. Wow. Do you think there will be a Tyranid kill team? There is. I mean, whether it'll be packaged in the box, I assume that'll happen eventually. But yes, there already is the kill team if you have the Indominus stuff. But it sounds also like at least one of those 3 boxes that they've announced. There's like they used to call them like the Recruit, the Elite, and the Commander, and I forget what they're calling them now. But there's like these 3 starter boxes that'll be coming out sort of soonish. It sounds like one of those is basically just the 2 combat patrols and not all the rest of the stuff that was in Leviathan. So either way, there's that, or eventually I'm assuming they will actually come up with a combat patrol box. One will be Space Marines and one will be Tyranids, and then one will be the Necrons as well, I think. Made a black and white coloring book rules version for the people complaining about color and then tell them to color their own. Well, I mean, you could. Bolt Gun is also not a very good game. Really? I don't know. It was fun to watch. I guess I haven't played it, so there's that. But it seemed like people were having fun with it. It's just, it's too, like I said, it's a boomer shooter and it's too fast, and I'm old, so there's that. Space Marines being quick is lore accurate. I get that they're speedy, but it's just like I expect there to be more stomping. Like it's real floaty, that game. You're just kind of like, woo, and I'm like, I expect it to be more like clunk, 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 that kind of thing if they're like running real fast. So I don't think they're slow. I get that. But something about that game is just real floaty. And I'm like, I don't feel like they would be like that. Hello from France. How you doing? Got it on my Steam Deck that you forced me to buy last year, so I have to give it a try at Gen Con. Oh, nice. You got it on so how's it on the Steam Deck? I should try it on the Steam Deck, maybe. I'm looking forward to Gen Con, Tickner. I definitely am. We're going. It's going to be a good time. Space Marine, the game was excellent for giving the main character a feeling of weight. Yes, I'm super looking forward to Space Marine 2. I've been playing Space Marine 1 again on the Steam Deck, actually. That's been fun as well. Ever read The Infinite and the Divine? I'm literally listening to it. Well, that's not true. I'm going to say I was literally listening to it right now, but I'm actually talking here to you folks. I don't I've been listening to it though while painting, and I've stopped listening to it because I don't know why, but I don't like it. It's like bolter porn and then strange comedy. Like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it'll strike me soon, but it's not so much yet. F4U Corsair, World War II, Korea, F4 Phantom, Vietnam. Yep. I was a Wizzo for one last few remaining active duty units. Persian Gulf War. Nice. I've always liked the Phantom. I think it's a cool plane. That is a Crimson Skies looking airplane. Absolutely. No, you're right. Absolutely. What are some of the best, simplest miniatures games? I have a 7-year-old boy and want to build some memories between playing, building, and making stories. He does great telling stories for RPGs. I would take a look at a game, and you can download a PDF. It's not free, but you can buy it. It's not very expensive. And it is called A Song of Blades and Heroes. It's written by a guy named Andrea, and it's from a company called Ganesha Games or Ganesha Games. I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but it's, like the Indian elephant god Ganesha or Ganesha. But yeah, A Song of Blades and Heroes. And it is a great it's a skirmish game that I still, when I go to a convention to run some little events and stuff like that and teach people about miniatures game, it's still the game that I run at conventions. It's fun, but it's got like, I don't know. It's incredibly easy to teach. Let's just say that. And it's not crazy deep. It's not going to become your new hobby. It's not going to become your new raison d'etre, but it is a great little game. And it's fun and it's fantasy, but they have other versions as well. There's lots and lots of different versions of it. There's a Song of Drums and Shakos, if you want to have like Napoleonic dudes with the big, funny hats and muskets and junk like that. There's a bunch of different ones, but yeah, Song of Blades and Heroes is the original base game, and it's a great game. Let's see here. For some reason, I have 9 F4 Phantom kits in 3 different scales on my stash of kits. I really like Phantoms. The Phantoms are cool looking. I've been painting Necrons for the last few months, and I am so tired of Warriors. 40 down so far. Wow, yeah. Emily shopping equals yarn, I assume. I'm assuming because she's going with, let's see. The 4 women she's going with, she and Stephanie, they are knitters. They love to knit. The other one, Leslie, she is more about sewing, so they'll probably go some places for that. And Sean, she does some leather work, like making I don't think she sells them like at Ren fairs or anything like that, but she likes to make like pouches and little thingies like that, stuff like that. So I don't know if there's any kind of thing like that down in Madison, but maybe there is. Assembling some clones for Star Wars Legion. First time catching you live. Thanks for the many hours of entertainment and advice. Well, thank you, Cameron. I appreciate that. Have a good luck with the clones, or the first time you do. Oh, you're assembling some clones. The clones are not that hard to build. The droids from Star Wars Legion, the B1s and stuff like that, I've heard are a little fiddly. So yeah. Like Diesel, I also get a little grumpy when my Prime Lady is gone. Sure, makes sense. Gaslands is probably the simplest entry game I know. Low barrier to entry, use Hot Wheels and Matchbox cars. The model requirements are very simple for sure, but the game, I would say, it's not a bad game at all. I like that game quite a bit. It is a little bit more dense than Song of Blades and Heroes, I think. Song of Blades and Heroes has also plenty of expansions but the base starting game is super easy to teach and very simple. And you can use like any kind of fantasy miniatures you want. You can just buy Reaper Bones stuff and things like that, and they're really easy to work with as well. So yeah. Basically have to learn to share your house with their yarn collection. She has to share the house, well, at least the basement, with my miniature collection. Left you without adult supervision. It's true. I mean, you folks are kind of adult supervision, so that helps. And then yesterday I had the Patreon Irregulars live show, so that happens once a month, and that was also adult supervision, so it's not so bad. Greetings from the UK. I wondered how well your Kit Bashed Inquisitor vid went. Might we see him painted up sooner rather than later? I mean, I think it's not yet. Has it hit 10,000 views yet even? Nope, not quite. So it is as far as views are concerned, it's the worst. But the people in the comments who commented, they seem to like it. So, you know, people who like it, and everybody else looked at the thumbnail and went and just jogged on, which is, I guess, you know, you get that. So, let's see here. 40k intro book is just the 5 flamer dudes and nids. The starter is 2 combat patrols, and the ultimate starter is the combat patrols with terrain. Oh, no kidding. So you'd want so not the intro box, but the middle one would basically have those. Okay, well, that's interesting. Again, I do wonder if they're going to make those just normal actual combat patrol boxes and sell those or not. The thing is, well, yeah, they might. They still might. I could see it. I guess it kind of depends on the sprue layout and whether they're able to. Like if they ended up putting stuff, like if they designed the sprues kind of screwy, so there's things on there you don't need for that box, then they're not going to be able to do it that way. So I don't know. It's a good question. Let's see here. Bolt gun runs out of enemy variety. Enemies are very bullet spongy, and they do too good a job at replicating the warts of old boomer shooters. Yeah, I've watched people play it, and they've always had like the difficulty turned all the way up, and they are just pumping so much. And I'm not. I would play it on like super baby mode, just because I'm not interested, frankly, in playing hard games. I don't know why. I want to play a game and have a good time. I don't want it to be a challenge, which is why I don't want to play any of the Demon Souls, Elder Scrolls, blah, blah, blah. You know, yeah. I was yesterday years old when I discovered that Tabletop Minions' new game, Majestic 13, is a solo and co-op game, saving my pennies to pick it up soon. Indeed. So is our last game previous to this. So this game, yep, is solo and co-op, but there's also a versus mode where you're basically doing like military exercises, team versus team. But the majority of the time, if you're playing either solo or co-op, and it's your team of 5 versus an alien or sometimes multiple aliens. Space Station Zero, also solo and co-op with the ability to play versus if you want to. Our first game, Rain in Hell, that one was originally designed to just be a versus game, but we did make an expansion to it, which was PDF only, which added the ability to play solo and co-op, and then added 6 new scenarios that you play as a story. So you play scenario 1 first, and then scenario 2, and then scenario 3, and you play them through, and it makes a kind of a story. So for most things, we're going to be usually like the games that we come out with once a year, like in the spring, those will probably always be, for the most part, focused on solo and co-op with the ability to play versus the games that we're going to start putting out in the winter. So we're going to start making a zine that comes out every winter, and it will have a micro game in there, which is basically just a very short kind of, you know, miniatures game. And those will probably be versus only, because it takes a lot of extra writing to make it so that you can play it by solo. So we'll probably focus a little bit more on the versus games, because it'll be again, the idea behind these periodicals that we're going to make, this zine that we make every winter, there's going to be a micro game in it every year, and then probably some little, you know, modular add-ons for some of our previous games, which you can use to add new things to, you know, those games if you're into that. But it will come with a full-blown game, and it'll just be like a micro game is what we're calling it. So those will generally be versus, because, yeah, you have to write like an AI to some degree if you want to have the ability to play solo or co-op. Let's see here. Crimson Skies was great. Yeah, man, that PC game. I mean, so Crimson Skies started out as a game by FASA, the guys who originally did BattleTech and Shadowrun. And they made this game called Crimson Skies, which was alternate history, like after the Civil War, the country didn't come together into one country. It kind of split up into like 4 or 5 different countries. And because of that, there was no interstate highway system that got built. So all of the money and the tech that kind of went into cars instead went into air travel, because then you could just fly from place to place and there was no, fancy, roads, interstates. So that was the point of the game, is that was the, that was kind of the trick. And it took place like in the 20s or the 30s or something like that. But the planes were far more advanced than they actually were in the 20s and 30s, and that's the whole point of the thing. So Crimson Skies was very cool, and it was originally a miniatures game with metal miniatures that came out in the 90s. Then a PC game came out in the late 90s, I think, and that was awesome. That was a spectacular. I just loved that game. It was spectacular. And then they made a Xbox 360 game that was like, it was okay, but the PC game was the best. And then they also made, at one point, the HeroClix people made a Clicks type game, pre-painted airplanes and stuff. And that was kind of cool too. But the PC game was the bomb. I wonder if it's on, I wonder if it's on Good Old Games. I should look, because that game was dope. I'm sure it doesn't look as good as I remember, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. F4 Phantom is proof that you can make a brick fly if you strap powerful enough engines to it. It's true. On a plain note, Blood Red Skies by Warlords Games is fantastic and simple. I've heard good things about it. Ganesha Games also does 4 Against Darkness, a super light solo dungeon crawler. Reminds me of a random dungeon generator in the back of... Yeah, it's like a kind of a solo RPG, but yeah. But if you're looking for miniatures, they're Song of Blades and Heroes is really, really good. Pretty brave for a fez-wearing fella to call a Shaco a funny hat. I mean, you're not wrong. Do you have a favorite cultist sculpt? Honestly, the cultists from Anvil Industries are probably my favorite cultists. Like, there's like Chaos Cultists that GW does, and they do some pretty cool stuff like that. But if you're just looking for a cultist for a game, just a dude in robes, I don't think you can go wrong with those guys, especially since they're so modular that you could be like, hey, he's a cultist in robes, but he has an AK-47 or an M4 or something like that. And that's also fun too, because they're very modular. You can get different guns for them and all that kind of stuff. You could give them some sort of crazy like plasma weapon if you wanted to too. They sell a lot of different modular guns over there at Anvil Industry. Unfortunately, Gen Con is the same time as Sturgis this year. I wonder if that means there won't be that crazy motorcycle rally then as well. I hope not, but there have been some years at Gen Con where like Gen Con starts technically on Wednesday afternoon kind of, but really starts on Thursday. And then sometime on Saturday, I think, all of a sudden downtown Indianapolis, which is already filled with gaming nerds, all of a sudden then also gets filled with motorcycles. And that's troublesome. So maybe that won't happen this year because those folks went to Sturgis, or they're doing it for people who can't make it to Sturgis and have decided to go to Indianapolis instead, and that's not ideal. B1s are terrible. Assembled 6 units already, took me several days. Yeah, I've heard, like, I've got a friend who's like, oh, they're no problem. I love putting them together. And everybody else I've talked to is like, ugh, I hate those droids. If I count as adult supervision, that means playing with fire is on the table, boys. Well, you know. Starter box is missing the Librarian and Terminator armor and the Barb Gaunts. You need to get the ultimate to get the combat patrols and building it while watching. Oh, well, that's a bummer. I mean, it kind of makes sense, I guess, but yeah. Great to hear that some of the Vince Adam games will be solo since my friends are parasocial. Like I said, it's generally like the big game that we put out in the spring. That's going to be the focus on pretty much all of them. I can't think of one right now that's not. I mean, we have the next... For the spring games, we have the next 3 planned? Yes, we have the next 3, I think, planned. That third one is a maybe, but definitely the next 2. The one's going to come out in 2024, and the one's going to come out in 2025. We already know what both of those are. We've already started on the 2024 one. We're working on the 2024 spring game in parallel to the late 2023 micro game for the periodical. but yeah, and then the 2026 game, we've got an idea what we're going to do. That could also get pushed, and then maybe something else comes along, but we'll see. Let's see here. Looking forward to the zine. Nice. Yeah, I'm looking forward to doing it. I still have Crimson Sky, but it crashes. Wish they put it on Steam. Like, I would like it to be on, like I said, good old games, because then they go through and they kind of tweak it to make it so that it runs on people's computers and stuff these days. That's, yeah. I have some clickies and the medals. Nice. Hot and sweaty morning down here. Late to the live stream. Well, that's okay. I hope that you're doing okay. PC game is definitely on my abandonware. Gotcha. I run Crimson Skies on my Xbox still. I liked that version okay, but the PC version was really that, because you could customize your planes, and I don't know, there was something about it. It was just a lot of fun. Because we used to play it at our LAN party. It was dope. We would have to make all these special rules, but you couldn't use this type of weapon and you couldn't use that type of weapon. Like, one guy got real angry because I loved the plane, and I can't remember what it's called anymore, but it had like an AI run turret in the back, and he got so angry about that. I'm like, and then eventually we had to stop using it because otherwise he was going to cry. I bought 4 Against the Great Old Ones ages ago, but I've never gotten around to playing it. I really should. Yeah, he's done a bunch of different variations on that system. Blackstone Fortress cultists are nice. Yeah, they very much are. And I also like the Blooded or whatever, the ones that they put in the Kill Team last year at some point. Those guys are pretty good cultists too, if you're looking for 40k cultists, right? Next 3, Cat Police, Forsaken Robots, and Ancient Egypt. I certainly hope so. It does not seem to be the case, no. Not really, no. I mean, I would not want to, Ancient Egypt, that's going to be completely Sam's baby. He's gonna publish that one himself, and I'm here for it. I'm going to be there right first in line to buy it. And Cat Police, we would get in trouble probably for something like that from Rockstar. And also, I don't know where you would get models for Cat Police. Yeah. I still don't understand why we can't have Warhammer Total War and Dawn of War on a console. Probably because there's certain RTSs, real-time strategy games, you just need a lot of keys. You need a lot of, the mouse, and I need to hit this and this and that, and there's just a lot. And sometimes being able to do it this way on the, on the controller, there's not a lot of RTSs on the consoles in general, are there? I mean, there have been some. Lord knows, I have messed around with some console RTSs in the past. They're not particularly successful sometimes, I think. And I think that's part of the problem. Now, that being said, I think the PlayStation 5 and the Series X or whatever, can you plug keyboards into both of those? I don't remember if you can. I swear there was one that you could plug a mouse and keyboard into, but I can't remember if I might be making that up. I might be misremembering it. I know you can plug a keyboard and a mouse into a Steam Deck, but that's a PC, so that would make sense. But yeah, I don't know that. Yeah. Could you see being a full-time game designer in the future? I mean, I don't know that it is. Well, I don't know that it's possible. Like, Vince and I were talking recently about because as it is, we started off, we're doing a game a year, which is a decent amount of work. And now we're expanding it into like a game and a half a year, right? Because we're doing this micro game for the periodical thing, and then, and then I was like, well, maybe we should think about publishing other people's games, having people there's probably a lot of good games out there on Wargame Vault, for an example, that no one can tell is a good game because the thumbnail / cover is trash and they didn't do any decent layout. It's just straight up just Word Times New Roman. There's no graphics, but the system might be really sound, the rule set. So I was like, well, maybe we should think about that. And Vince had a very good point in that it would then kind of take, Vince has got a regular day job. I have less of a day job these days. I'm more, freelance and doing that kind of stuff. And then also leaning more obviously into, the channel and the streaming, and then also the game design stuff. So it doesn't, at this point right now, us publishing other people's games doesn't seem like a thing that's going to work out, just because we wouldn't just want to publish other people's games. We would need to, I mean, there would be a lot of like, I don't know, there would probably be a lot of editing that would need to go on with the actual game stuff, you know, and things like that. And then if you're working with somebody else, then they're like, well, but that's the way I meant for it to be. And we're just, I think we're going to stick a little bit more insular for now. Like, we obviously still want to work with, you know, artists and things like that. I did all the art, for lack of a better term, in Majestic 13, but it was not because we couldn't find anybody to do it. It just seemed like at the time it was all completely within my wheelhouse, because it was all just Photoshop manipulation, and I've been using Photoshop for literally a quarter of a century. So it was mainly all just photo manipulation of stock images and things like that and whatever. So that was all feet. And then plus also it allowed me to then, you know, be flipping through on a page and be like, oh gosh, I really need I need something for the bottom of this, because this text ends here and then a new section starts here. So I need something here. So I would just design this, and I would sit down and I would find, you know, the little stock photo of a bunch of, file folders. And then I would make this up and then do this and then superimpose it in Photoshop and put a little tiny shadow on it, so it looks like it's like a dossier on a page and all that stuff. And it took a long time, but everything was custom kind of fit in the spots that we had. Whereas when you work with an artist, they give you a bunch of pieces of artwork that you pay them for, which is great, but you don't call them up and go, look, I got this much space, can you make a piece of artwork for this? They give you the artwork, you've given them general ideas. I need half pages. But sometimes you're like, this piece of artwork is too big for the hole that I have to put it in, or too small, or whatever. So there's always that, but it is still, this was much more bespoke, but also took 2.5 months. So there's that problem. The micro game and the next game after that, we've already got artists lined up for both of those that we're working with. So yeah, this game I just didn't think needed illustration. I think I felt that it needed to look more realistic, for lack of a better term. What I literally was going for was for the documents on Mulder's desk in well, that's not even true. Really what I'm going for is documents on the lone gunman's desks or whatever, if you've ever watched X-Files. Like the beginning of the book here, the fluff of, the 2.5 pages of fluff, and that's it. Not even. It's like printed almost like old school dot matrix, and it's like from this person talking about, these are all the documents that I've collected. And that's why everything looks like, folders, and like there's a little paper clip over here, that's clipping this photograph of this, scary alien to this redacted report. And then there's a big stamp. This entire cover is actually just a photograph. Like, I went to the 1 hour photo place with a thumb drive with this image on it, and I had them print it, on a 5x7, adding the white border to it to make it look a little bit more old timey. I printed this page out, and this is even an actual real stamp. Like, I had a stamp made. It's not up here anymore. It's in the basement. But I actually had a stamp made that's probably about 5.5 inches. And then I bought like red stamp pad, and then went and I printed this page out. Not 20 times. I printed this page out probably a dozen times, and then I just kept stamping it till I got exactly what I was looking for. The only part that's fake on this, that's not like actual photograph, this red stripy stuff on the file folder, I had to Photoshop that part in, because I could not get a file folder that had that already printed on it, obviously, because it's supposed to be top secret, don't look at this file folder kind of stuff. So I had to Photoshop that in, but it's a real file folder. It's on a real desk. Like if you look closely and stuff like that, this is just a photograph. So, but everything else we generally probably are going to do most likely is going to be more illustrated and illustrative. So that's fun too. It's maybe a little bit more inside baseball than you guys might have asked for, but there we are. I have some of the old Ral Partha Crimson Skies models in the pile somewhere. Nice. With the acetate disc for props. Oh yeah, they had like a little tiny round disc that you would put on the front that looks like a spinning prop that way. Yeah. I'm still waiting for robot squirrels. Well, talk to the noob painter. He's got the sweet STL hookup on the robot squirrels. The Guard have so many different ways to play. Yeah, like I said, I'm focusing on, well, all right, so do I have my, oh, yeah, my iPad's right here. I do not like the 40K app for trying to play, but it's not bad for quickly building armies. But like if you are now trying to play the game with an army and you want to see all your stats and stuff like that, that's not great. It's also hard to find. There we go. Okay. Loading. Got that guy right there. Just not sure what's going on. Usually just pops right up. It usually just like, yeah, here you go. Boom. But let's try that again. Ah, there we go. Continue. Battle Forge. Okay, so come on, dude. There we go. So I'm going to start off with a Castellan, who he's already built. And then I'm going to have a Cadian, not Canadian, but Cadian command squad. Initially, my thought was also having Gaunt's Ghosts, because I have that box, but I haven't built it yet, so I'm not going to do that. Let me go to version 2 of this list. That makes more sense. Okay, so in version 2 of this list, we're getting rid of the Castellan, and we're going with a Cadian command squad and then a Commissar. And those are the characters. And then battle line is 2 sets of 10 Cadian shock troops, 1 set of 10 Death Corps of Krieg. There's a single Chimera, dedicated transport, and then under other data sheets, there's Armored Sentinel, 2 sets of Field Ordnance batteries, a Hellhound, Casterkin, and a Manticore, and that comes to dead on 1,000 points. So basically, I've got 3 Chimera-type vehicles, a Chimera, a Hellhound, and a Manticore. I've got 2 sets of 2 of the Field Ordnance batteries. I've got an Armored Sentinel. I've got some Casterkins. So I've really only got 40 troops on the table, like just regular troop. Well, battle line, I've only got 30, but I've got 40 troops if you count the Casterkins, and then technically 45 if you count the Cadian Command Squad, and 46 if you count the Commissar. So yeah. But I've had a bunch of different variations of stuff that I've done so far on this. And that I like this app for quite a bit. Just being able to flip around and be like, oh, what if I do this? And then getting the points and all that stuff. But then once you have that list going now like, oh, I'm going to have this on the table in front of me and I want to look at all my stats, it sucks for that. Honestly, I don't like it because you're constantly having to go back and click through and look at stuff like, oh, what's the leadership on that guy? Oh, hang on, let me go. Like, it would just be so much nicer if they would just print the cards, like make, like if there was a button you could push that would just be like, here's the actual cards, and you could just scroll up and down, as opposed to like click, 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 oh, back, click, drop down, click, click, and just, yeah, it's not well done in my opinion. That's the way I look at it. There's a red panda model on Titancraft that would allow you to make a passable cat police officer. Interesting. There are a few RTSs on consoles. They all suck. Yeah, I've not seen... Yeah, you would think they would have taken off if they were really good, and you don't really see it too much. I'm a dirty console player, and I hope they just become Steam machines. I am also... I mean, I do PC gaming as well, but I also like consoles. I like both of them. Like, I'm probably going to play Starfield, which is upcoming in September, on the Series X, Xbox, whatever it's called. That's kind of the plan, I think. I haven't turned on my PlayStation since March. Too much more interesting things to do rather than play video games for me. I'll be honest, I haven't been playing a lot of video games either. Like, I've been mostly painting and things like that, and also playing Combat Patrol with Sam and stuff and whatever. But every once in a while I sit down and play a video game. I haven't been doing it as much as I had been. When Starfield comes out in September, I could see myself probably playing more video games, at least for a while. But we'll see how that goes. Surprised there has not been a Halo tabletop game. There have been several. There was a Halo Clicks game, like made by the same people who do Hero Clicks. There was a Halo spaceship battle game called Halo Wars, maybe? I think that's right. None of them have gone well. Now, Hero Clicks made this, like, I don't know what I've played a little bit of Halo. I never played a ton of it, but there was this massive like walker kind of vehicle thing, and this model was 2.5 feet across or something like that for Halo, for the Halo Clicks game way back in the day. It was like $250, but it was this giant pre-painted doohickey, and I'm like, I feel like they do that sometimes just for marketing. Like, because who's going to like run that in a game? You know what I mean? Like, it takes up like a quarter, if not more, of your entire board, you know? But it's pretty cool. It's kind of like the old, they used to make a clicks game for Battletech, and they made a, not a drop pod, but they made the drop ship, not the big round thing, but like the more square one that, it's not square, it's like a long rectangle that it like lands and the doors open up on the side and then the mechs walk out. They made one of those. It was pre-painted and stuff like that. It was like $100, but this was also in the 90s. Like, it's, you know, nowadays if they would make that and sell it, I'm sure it would be a lot more expensive. My friend Peter has one, and I keep wanting to like offer him money for it, but yeah, I don't know. Like, he hasn't looked at it, I'm sure, in 20 years, but I know he's got it stacked away someplace. I work as a freelance ghost illustrator. So you illustrate ghosts? No, and quite a few of my editors over the years have begun a request, can you make it this big? Yeah. Working in a style similar to more well-known image makers. Ah, I see. I gotcha. I thought you meant either you were a ghost or you only drew ghosts. I mean, that's kind of cool. It's niche, but it's there. There was Halo Action Click, produced by WizKids. The 2008 financial crisis killed the projected expansion set 2. Gaunt's Ghosts are pretty fun kit to paint up. I will eventually do it because, like I said, I have the box. I don't even know why I bought it. I remember buying it. I was going to use it for something else. I did a lot of that with Guard, where I'm like, I like these models, but I don't want to play 9th edition or even 7th edition or whatever. I like these models. I could use them in other games like Space Weirdos or, you know, whatever, blah, blah. And so I would buy these things and then they would sit on a shelf for quite a while. And then all of a sudden when I decided I want to make a Guard army, I'm like, oh, I've already got that and that and that and that and that. And then it's made it actually relatively easy, or at least cheaper. Playing a Bethesda game on a console, living life dangerously, I see. I just don't know that I want to do it on the PC. And the reason for that is my PC is not particularly new. I think my video card is a 2060 Super. I've got 32 gigs of like regular RAM. I don't remember how many gigs of RAM are on that card, but it's a 2060 Super. And I'm just a little concerned because this game, I mean, you know, very frequently they don't optimize stuff great, sometimes over there at Bethesda. And admittedly, they have said that Starfield is going to be locked at 30 frames a second. But when you're playing solo, or, well, yeah, if you're playing single player, I don't care that much about frame rate. Like, if it looks chunky, it's bad. But I don't also, 30 doesn't bother me. I like to make I like, you know, producing videos generally that are 24 frames a second. So 30 to me is like, oh, that's even slightly faster. I'm not the type of person who needs a 60. But the reason they've said that they're doing this on the Xbox is that then that way it is locked at 30. It shouldn't slow down because, like, right on the box, I just unpacked the box recently for the Xbox. It says 120 frames per second at 4K. So it should, in theory, at least be able to handle 30K and stay locked at 30 all the time. But we'll see. I haven't had an Xbox in forever. Like, I had an Xbox 360. I had the original Xbox, then I got the 360, and then after the 360, when it went to Xbox One and PlayStation 4, I flipped back to PlayStation because I had a PlayStation 1 and a PlayStation 2. Then I went to Xbox and didn't do PlayStation 3. Then it was Xbox and Xbox 360, and then I flipped back to PlayStation again with the Xbox or the PlayStation 4. And now I have a PlayStation 5 and an Xbox Series X. So there's a lot of plugs and buttons because there's a lot of HDMI switchers now. It's become a whole thing. Let's see here. I read that retailers were canceling pre-orders for Starfield. I'm not sure what we'll make of that. In the last 3 days, people have started seeing cancellations. That's weird. I wonder what that is. Like, I don't know that I see myself pre-ordering. I see myself, well, no, probably not. I see myself, getting the download. I'm not going to do the physical. I don't really care that much. I have that dropship still in package. Nice. Thoughts on Diablo 4? I haven't played it. That Battletech dropship makes a great terrain piece. I would think so too. Yeah. Leopard class. That's, I think, right. Yep. Halo Fleet Battles was the Starship board game. Yep. Yeah, or is it Halo Wars was a video game. Halo's Fleet Battles, that's right. I think that's what it was. I'll say that MechWarrior 5 on console is not bad. It's easier than finding a particular mech and system for the new tabletop. They also did a huge model of this alien mecha kind of insect looking, was more than 2 feet long. Yeah, that's what I was just talking about. Yeah. Still rocking 16 gig of RAM. My Xbox Series is my gaming machine. My Windows or Mac computers are dated. I mean, I don't know. Like, that's the thing. Like, for most games, that's fine. But like new stuff, like real new stuff, like I don't see myself necessarily upgrading right now to a 3000 series or God forbid a 4000 series. Like, you see like prices online. You're like, oh yeah, this video card is like $1,700 or something, and you're like, no, not going to do that. Once you go 60 frames per second, there's no turning back. If you're okay with 30 frames, enjoy it while you can, but going from 60 to 50, you will be disappointed. We'll see. I don't know. Again, if I was playing like against people and I had to be like agile and speedy and this and that, great. But when I'm playing a single player kind of RPG type of game, I don't know if I need it as much. Pre-ordering PC games is just plain idiotic, and also the reason why so many games are so bad upon release. Yeah, no, I mean, you're not wrong. I don't, like, especially nowadays, because it's digital. Like, it used to be that you wanted to pre-order a game because maybe your local, especially if it was like a weird game, like if it was a big game, there was no reason to pre-order because they were going to order a bazillion of them because they knew that they were going to have like a midnight release of GTA 4 or whatever like that. So you're standing out in line like a dingus, and I'm just speaking from personal experience. But nowadays, with stuff being digital, there's no reason to pre-order. There was games I pre-ordered because I knew if I didn't, it wouldn't show up at the local GameStop or whatever, that kind of stuff. Strange, like handheld stuff. There was a game, I can't remember what it was called now, but it was basically XCOM, but for the Nintendo Game Boy Advance. I think it was for the Advance. Or maybe it was for the DS. I don't remember. Anyway, but it was like, if I didn't order it ahead of time, they wouldn't get a copy in, because it was like, I just barely found out about it from the internet. It was not a popular game, and I can't even remember the name now. So yeah, there was a reason for that back then. But with a console these days, you just be like, oh, it's available now? Cool. I'm gonna download it and buy it. And it will have it. And I don't have to stand in line, and I don't have to like hope that the store has it in stock and all that kind of stuff. So for me, yeah, the PC, and I know that they want you to pre-order. So they're like, oh, but we'll give you this special doodad or the special widget or the special, and I don't care, especially in a single player game. Like, who cares if you got like the special, fancy helmet, on your guy when you're playing by yourself? That sort of seems weird to me, but whatever. StarCraft 2 killed my old MacBook Pro 3 times. It killed it, and then 3. Wow. I never learned, but that's why I got a PlayStation. There you go. Yeah, no, I did. Playing games on the Mac is still not necessarily great, I don't think. I think the main pre-order for Starfield is the Constellation Edition, which comes with stuff. Yeah, like there's like there's a steel case for the disc. Well, no, from what I understand, it comes with a steel case, but there's no disc. I don't know. There's like a bunch of little gadgets and doodads, which I don't care about. Like, I need more gadgets and doodads, Lord knows. Digital is the reason why I said that. If there's only a limited number of hard copies, sure. But with all games being downloads, yep. Is Underworld still active? Don't hear about it much anymore. They keep coming out with stuff. I don't know anybody who plays it anymore, but they do keep coming out with stuff. And sometimes those models are just like, oh, cool, I could use that for something else, but for the most part, yeah, I don't know. I haven't played it in a real long time. Pre-pandemic was the last time I played it, and like I said, I don't see anybody at my local shop playing it. But to be fair, I don't see people playing at my local shop much at all anymore. Like, I talked to my friend who's the store owner, and he's like, sales are still just fine, things are great, but no one comes in to actually play anymore, except for you and Sam, he says, which is true. Sam and I do have a tendency to play at his shop. But yeah, no, it's I could play endless rounds of Call of Duty Team Deathmatch for 18 hours at a stretch, kill and be killed ad infinitum. Oh boy. Yeah, I like Battlefield 2042, but I like can play it for about an hour or so, and then I'm like, well, okay, I've had enough. That's about it. Everyone loves a doodad. I think so. Gaming on MacBooks kills MacBooks. I guess it depends maybe on the game. I don't know. But to be fair, yeah, I've never, like on my, because I've got a M1 MacBook Pro, a little 13-incher. I don't think I've got any games on it. Rebel Star Tactical Command? Maybe? I don't remember. But it was very much like, it was like the spiritual successor to XCOM, and it was, again, either on the Game Boy Advance or on the DS, and I can't remember which one. Are doodads superior to tchotchkes? I think if you take two tchotchkes and put them together, do they become a doodad? That's not true. Besides Cuphead and Star Wars Battlefront, I'm a failed video gamer. The Cuphead seems real hard. I've watched people play it and I've been like, no, that's no thank you for me. It was good on Star Wars until all the newer generation gamers woke up to play online. Interest in Baldur's Gate? Maybe. Like, I'm not gonna pull the trigger until it's not in early access anymore. Like, once it's released, then I would look at it, but I'm not probably gonna do. I'll do early access on an indie title sometimes if it's real cheap. But when you're a big company cranking out a big project and it's in early access, I'm not as interested in beta testing for you, thanks. I don't know why. Underworlds is dead in the Toronto area. Of course, I have collected most of the sets despite not having ever played. I'm smart like that. I mean, they're cool models. They're very, very cool models. I know that they tried to sort of fix things with the game by putting in that Rivals mode where you were using set decks instead of custom-built decks. You can still play this custom-built decks way, but making it so that people weren't chasing after the best cards and like super comboing and things like that, because that was driving people away. So like, okay, well, there's also a Rivals mode where you can just play with these, base kind of set decks that, pre-constructed decks, and then that way, it's, and I don't know that was enough quickly, and it didn't save it, I think. We had a Legion tournament yesterday and only 5 people came. We were expecting 16 or more. Yeah, was it Facebook? Because people will say, "Oh, I'm going to totally show up on Facebook," and then they don't ever show up. I killed my M1 Pro with gaming, I'm pretty sure. Last game I pre-ordered was ME Andromeda. Mass Effect, sure. Real salty about pre-orders ever since. Yeah, no, I'd heard bad things about Andromeda. I played the first Mass Effect, or did I play this first and the second? I don't remember. It's been a really long time. I think gaming on any Mac kills a Mac if it makes your fans sound like an airplane taking off. Oh, sure. Yeah, no, I get that. I thought doodads were related to whatchamacallits and who's-its. I think whatchamacallits and who's-its related, but I don't know if it's related to doodads. I've played Baldur's Gate 3 and Solasta. I have to say Solasta feels better. Some D&D rules in the engine. Oh, I haven't heard of Solasta. That's interesting. I've never played anything XCOM, but I'm thinking about getting Warhammer 40k Mechanicus. I'm trying to remember which one that is. There's the Inquisitor one. Yeah. There's one called Martyr. There's so many of them now that some of them are hard to keep track of. I was able to order the Underworld's miniatures without the cards and came with stats for Age of Sigmar. Great models. I got the Godsworn Hunt set and thoroughly enjoyed painting them in detachment. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is that's a smart move on their part, is that you can take these and be like, oh, cool, they're a unit now in my Age of Sigmar army. That makes a lot of sense. I've been playing Xenonauts 2, which feels like Majestic 13. I've never even heard of Xenonauts 2 or Xenonauts 1 for that example. Chaos Soup Army for Age of Sigmar. Yeah, I've always been a big fan of Soup. And when I say that, I mean, like, not having like, oh, I only run this very specific thing. I only run these, but like having a, like, this is my army and it's all kinds of different stuff from the faction of order. That's the kind of soup I like. Finally bought it on sale, played it for an hour, and then remembered that I don't like video games anymore. Well, that is troublesome. Yeah, that makes it hard. I'm enjoying Xenonauts 2, but still early into it. Yeah, I haven't heard of that. I'll have to look it up. Underworld's players at my local shop are very nice, but all played competitive decks. Not super fun when you're new to the game. Yeah, that is an issue with any kind of gaming, is if you've got people who are competitive, they very frequently, like if they're like, I mean, they play competitively. They're not just like, oh, I'm competitive, I like to win, but like they play in tournaments and things like that. They have a hard time turning that off, I think. I've got a good friend who, he doesn't play in tournaments as much as he used to, but he used to play in tournaments all the time, and he does not have that kind of off switch where he can just play like a fun, fluffy game. And it's not like he's a jerk about it. He's always real nice about it. It's just, he just doesn't know how to not go hard. You know what I mean? So, had 3 people show up for Legion in my local area, trying to build up the community. Hopefully paying frequently at our local shop will build interest. It can frequently over time. Not always, but it can. I want them to make a Camorra set for Necromunda now. That'd be kind of interesting. I used to hate soup, but it turns out my mom just made it wrong. Oh, well, that's a different type of soup altogether. Tried Star Wars Armada, but when I realized you have to buy a certain ship set for certain cards, you killed my drive right there. Yeah, like there was a certain ship that you bought for Star Wars X-Wing so that you could get C-3PO, but otherwise you didn't really use the ship ever or any of the rest of the cards, and that was, yeah, that kind of stuff bothers me. I like the polyglot force look, different detachments all cobbled together to confront the crisis, whether it wins games or not, I don't care. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, when I first started getting into Age of Sigmar, I was Chaos Soup all over the place. I had Chaos Warriors, I had Skaven, I had Nurgle dudes, I had just a bunch of, I had Beastmen. Like, they were all in my, like, 1,000 point, roughly, army, or maybe 1,500. I don't know if we played either 1,000 or 1,500 around here. The guys that I was playing with, but I would bring just like, and again, it was early days, you know, this is Age of Sigmar version 1 and version 2. And then version 3, then I've never played version 3 as it turns out. But there's a lot going on there. And it also does not seem like they want you to play soup anymore, because all the special rules are for like, oh yeah, you're only playing tree people. No other shenanigans. And you're like, well, I like shenanigans. That's the whole point. Fantasy Flight Games was bad about that. Yeah, but just X-Wing in general was definitely like, oh, you want this card? Well, we put it in this terrible ship that no one's actually going to want, but they're going to buy it because they want this guy. You know, that sucks. I was able to sell my first edition X-Wing stuff at just the right time, so I actually made money. Nice. I haven't tried 5 Leagues, but I've loved the sci-fi equivalent that Nordic Weasel put out. Yeah, that's 5 Parsecs from Home. I believe 5 Parsecs from Home and 5 Leagues from the Borderlands both got bought by Modifius. So Modifius published the 3rd edition of both of those, but it was like, we published it, but Nordic Weasel still developed it. But they just put out a press release. They just put out a press release like last month that I think that they bought. They didn't buy Nordic Weasel, but I think they bought those 2 games from Nordic Weasel or something like that. I don't know. I didn't look closely at it, but it was definitely, they're no longer just like partners, I think. It's a different story now. I should go back and probably look at it. My wife asked me what I was watching, and I told her church. Well, that's not exactly the case, but nothing wrong attending the every other Sunday Tabletop Means congregation. I appreciate that, though. My old man taught me to play cards and chess when I was 5. He never let me win and always went hard to teach me how to play. I can understand the play hard mindset. It is hard to switch off. Yeah, but like if you want to grow the, like you weren't going anywhere because it was your old man, right? But if you like walk into a store with your brand new painted up whatever small little army for some sort of game or whatever, and you sit down to play with somebody there at the store and they just step on your neck, and you're like, oh, okay, well, I'm learning. And then you come back and every week you just get your neck stepped on over and over again. Eventually most people will be like, this is not for me. Maybe I'm not enjoying this or whatever, but maybe you like having your neck stepped on. Like maybe like the person you're playing with is very personable and you have a good time, and maybe you're learning and that's great. But on the other hand, you might, if you just constantly are getting crushed, like I'm not even saying you have to win, but if there's like a chance you might win, that can help you enjoy the game a little bit more and potentially be more interested in it. But just crushing noobs is not what helps the overall community, in my opinion. Again, like, you weren't really going anywhere. Your old man was like, well, look, I'm going to keep doing this, and that's fine. But you could have at some point just been like, I don't want to play this game anymore. It's dumb. And that could also have been the case, potentially. Really sad that Wood Elves are being cut from the Cities of Sigmar Remnant line. I have nothing that I actually want to play a Wood Elf army in, but I would still want one. Sure. AMG has been better with that problem, but have created new problems of their own. Yeah. I love the idea of 40k soup in games, but it always ended up some power player combining jerk combination where there was obviously never into. Yeah, that's the issue sometimes too with that type of thing. It didn't seem like it was as bad in Age of Sigmar. For some reason, if you were running soup, it was generally not optimized. In 40k, if you can just like smash a whole bunch of stuff together, because there's so much of it, you can create these combos that can become that they just didn't anticipate. And then you're like, oh, okay, well, that's not great. So, all right, folks, it's 11 o'clock. I've got to go feed Diesel. He's been looking at me because he would like a little bit more wet food, please. He woke me up at 5:45 this morning because he wanted wet food. Normally he wakes up my wife, but she's not here. So yeah, so there was that. And so I got to do that. And then I got to come up with some lunch. And then I'm going to do some more basement cleaning. And then my wife will come home. So that'll be good. But thanks for coming by. I appreciate it. Again, I needed some more adult supervision, so I'm glad you folks were here. And again, I'll be painting more Guard tomorrow on the old Twitcheroo. That's not what they call it. They don't call it the old Twitcheroo. They should, though. I think that'd be a good name for it. The old Twitcheroo.tv. But yeah, come on by at 7 p.m. Central Time and watch me paint more Tiny Guards people, and we'll have a good time. So everyone, thanks for coming by and hanging out and watching. And in 2 weeks, I'll be at Gen Con, so not sure what we're going to do for the Every Other Sunday show. It's probably going to get bumped, but we'll see how that works out. So, yeah, but I'll be at Gen Con. So if you're at Gen Con and you see me, come up and say hi. I'd appreciate it. And I don't know. I'm going to try to film some things maybe at Gen Con, see how that works out. Usually people don't care. Usually people do not watch those videos, but I still might make something. So we'll see how it goes. Have a good